Hello and greetings, fellow StarCrafters, and I just want to start this game by noticing that the larvae actually start furled up, and then when we start the game, they unfurl and start walking around. That's really cool. I'd never noticed that before. I thought they were just kind of, I don't know, I guess they thought they started out like this before, but I've never zoomed in on that, so I thought that was pretty cool, so I thought I'd show it. But welcome back to game number 2 between DongRaeGu, the red Zerg player right here, in the top left corner, versus the blue Terran player. We all know him and love him, MouzThorzain. And this map is Tal'Darim Altar, very, very large map. So we are starting the series with basically the two biggest macro maps that are available. Tal'Darim Altar, which I think is probably the biggest map in the map pool, and Terminus. Now, this map is a little different than Terminus, as in it's a little harder to secure your third expansions. We saw 2 third expansions taken for both players by like the 9 or 10 minute mark, which is why we saw such fast hive tech for both players and such fast upgrades, is because they had so much extra gas to play around with. They were able to get all those extra forces. But in this map, you know, it becomes a little more difficult to take your third, if only because you do have to break the rocks right here. Although, once you do break the rocks, you do see that this is the version with a full 7 mineral patches. Well, not quite full, but full for an expansion, and 2 Vespene geysers. It doesn't have 5 in 1 geyser, as some versions of this map do. Now, we saw a 1 Rex fast expand in the previous version. It remains to be seen if Thorzain is going to try to do that again. He could be going for a different kind of strategy, maybe a quick Blue Flame Hellion drop. He did end up going for Blue Flame Hellions just a little bit later, as he wanted to make sure he secured his first expansion in the previous game as well. I would predict that we will be seeing, and yes, here we see the drone going out. He's going to go over here and just turn into a hatchery, and, well, turn into the little fish that swims around in the middle of the hatchery, I guess, or the shark, or whatever that is. I guess it's the drone, but it looks like a shark. And he's getting gas as well, so he's not worried about getting a spawning pool too quickly. I don't think he's worried about getting proxy rushed. Although, of course, it is certainly possible to do that. It is a 4-player map, so that makes it just a little bit more difficult, as you have to proxy rush to an area. You have to actually know where your opponents are in order to proxy rush them. His spawning pool is going down now, and I don't believe we... Oh, no, we do see a gas, actually, for Thorzain. So Thorzain will be most likely getting... Well, he could go a number of different routes. He could be getting a tech lab, which means he's probably going to go for a... Oh, looks like that barracks was built slightly off, so the SCV was actually on patrol there waiting for forces. So I think he's actually going to be getting a factory, as he's getting a second marine, which tends to signify... And, oh, is he actually going to lose? Oh, no, once that overlord goes on the high ground, he will get out of range, and that overlord should be safe to hide. This little area actually is big enough to hide factories. Terran players, when they're floating scouting factories, they put them in the middle here. So it's definitely big enough to be able to hide the overlord. Some players also like to hide the overlords right here in this little teeny patch of high ground. It's just a nice place that gives you pretty good vision of what's going on without taking too much damage. It looks like the SCV is going up here. Probably will be starting a bunker, if I had to guess. Is he starting a bunker? No, looks like he has changed his mind, as he didn't even shoot at the hatchery. I guess he just wanted to spawn the Zerglings, which there are 6 Zerglings on the way. I think, though, that that's basically only 2 more than normal. But he wanted to make sure he didn't lose any forces. He just wanted to fake like he was going to potentially bunker rush. Maybe he wanted to see if he could get any drones pulled off of the line as well. Not quite able to do that, though, unfortunately for him. Didn't cause quite as much economic damage as he was aiming for. It does look like those Zerglings, though, will be able to chase down this SCV quite possibly. The Marines, though, should be able to deal with it quite effectively. We'll get at least 1 Zergling killed there. And these 3 Marines with proper scoot and shoot micro, especially with that SCV tanking for them, should be able to kill those Zerglings as well with not too many losses. Looks like, though, pretty good control from DongRaeGu and good control from Thorzain. Looks like the Marine actually wasn't even being microed right at the end there, but it was able to still take it down. A factory did in fact go down. It is going to be a reactor factory, which means he's going to be getting relatively late reactor Hellions, as I don't know if that was miscontrolled, if he was aiming for a reactor Hellion build. And he just forgot to build the reactor on his barracks in time, so he just built a reactor on both. Or if... or exactly what else was going on with that. That might be why he didn't bunker rush. He did get a relatively early expansion as well, as reactor expands are known to do. And he's getting a starport. The starport, I would guess, is for... It's probably for medevacs. It's also possible he's going to get a tech lab on it and see if he can get a little bit of Banshee harass in and just make his opponent spawn with... or not spawn with, but form some sort of spore colony or something like that. Those Lings, though, will get roasted and taken out, or will be able to get away at least. A couple of them did, or one of them did get roasted. The other one roasted badly, but not quite to the point of death, so he should be okay. We do see a medevac coming out for Thorzain, so Thorzain is most likely going to be dropping those 4 Hellions inside the base, or possibly some Marines as well, as medevac is useful, especially useful with Marines, as it's able to heal them up and not just do that. We do see that the Mule was actually dropped from this orbital command. That actually just means that the Mule's resources are going to be gotten just a little bit earlier, as if you wait to drop the Mule on the expansion, then of course you have to wait till it lifts all the way over here before you're actually able to benefit from those resources. So, you know, it's just something that some players do typically in order to make their resource count just a little bit higher. This is actually going to be a Marine and not a Hellion drop. The Hellions, oh, this could be an elevator actually. This could very easily be an elevator attack, and I think that is what we're going to see here. DongRaeGu is not spotting this at all, so he will not know that this is coming. Oh, wow, did he spot it? No way. How did he spot this? I have no idea how he spotted that if he did. That just might have been some sort of sixth sense there. Maybe he spotted the medevac elsewhere with the Overlord that's sitting back at his base. But looks like that Queen is going to be taken out. Those Hellions are going to get lifted up, and those less forces are going to get lifted up as well. This attack did not prove very effective for Thorzain earlier in the previous game, but that was a later attack. He waited till he had Blue Flame Hellions. This time it's just Reactor Hellions. So that might have been part of this build as well. Looks like those Zerglings are getting roasted pretty thoroughly, though. It looks like that Queen is going to get taken out, and now those Hellions are going to race in. They're going to get a lot of drone kills. The drones are clicked on the minerals. Looks like they are going to attack now, but oh my god, that is so many drones being roasted. Wow, this has been an effective attack for Thorzain. Look at it. He's at a 25 supply lead, now down to 20. As most of those Marines do get cleaned up by the newly spawned Zerglings, but wow, look at, like, he's only at 20 resources right now, 20 minerals. So he has the larva to be able to reproduce his drones right now, but he does not have the minerals actually, and he's not even producing drones. He's producing Mutalisks, which are not going to be very effective, as there is a reactor barracks back here. There are 2 reactor barracks actually that are producing Marines right now, which will be able to defend against any sort of Mutalisk harass. I do not think he has an engineering bay, but it is coming up, and so he will be finishing it soon, and then that will allow him to build turrets, which will further protect him from it. And then he's actually going to use this medevac to be able to take out this Overlord. I'm not sure if he's actually going to be able to kill it or not. Oh, just barely able to kill it before it gets out of range. Nice stop from Thorzain, able to use the flying unit to spot on the high ground for the Overlord that he knew was hiding there, only from his previous experience and not from any sort of new information that he had gained. Looks like a couple more Mutalisks are coming out for DongRaeGu. DongRaeGu is probably going to try to catch up, actually, just by dealing more damage to the Terran player, as his drone count is at a low 17. Extremely difficult to come back in that sort of situation. If you look at the workers killed tab, he did get 19 workers on that attack, as well as forcing a lot of Zerglings and a lot of those minerals which had to be turned into Zerglings. We do see drones coming up now for DongRaeGu, but it might be too little too late. He is down 18, and actually, interestingly enough, both players are supply blocked, and actually fairly long supply blocked. The Mutalisks are coming in up here, dealing a decent amount of damage to the factory right there. SCVs are being pulled to repair it. They want to make sure they don't lose the tech lab, so that first of all, you don't have to rebuild it, and second of all, because it is researching siege tech, so that will be extremely delayed. I think most likely Thorzain right now is aiming for one big push to be able to end this game right after he takes out, right after he finishes Stim, finishes Combat Shield, and finishes siege tech. Most likely he's going to be moving in and trying to deal some damage there. I would say most likely that supply depot was probably cancelled. Not exactly sure what happened to that supply depot, but look at all of the production for the Terran player right now versus the production for the Zerg player. He's getting a Queen, 2 Overlords. Oh, that was another thing that was taken out. Both Queens were taken out in the attack as well. So while they were useful for the defense itself, they were actually taken out, which further hurt DongRaeGu's production. Of course, he doesn't quite have the resources to be able to produce with the number of larvae that he would need in that situation anyway. Looks like those Mutalisks are going to be able to take out that SCV right there. DongRaeGu is just so good with his Mutalisk control. That's part of the reason why he's so good against Terran, is he perfectly aims them in, takes out the SCV, and avoids the missile turret that is actually, theoretically in range. Looks like he still has not lost a Mutalisk yet. The lack of stim right now is really hurting for the Marines in terms of defending against this. DongRaeGu probably guesses that there is no stim, as he saw the number of Marines early and guessed probably that it was reactor Marines. Although, very well, stim could be done anytime now, so he has to be super careful with his Mutalisks that he doesn't get caught under some sort of stim rush and loses a good chunk of his Mutalisks, because that's something that he just really can't afford right now. And actually moving into a group of Marines that big is probably not something he really wants to do either, as he can't afford to replace any of these Mutalisks. He is now taking out the rocks right here to try to take a third expansion. That's probably going to come too late, as he is still down 35 in supply right now. Looks like there is no turret actually in the main base for Thorzain, so Thorzain is going to lose a couple of SCVs there. Looks like the Mutalisks are actually engaging Marines. I'm not quite sure why he's doing that. He did lose, I think, either 1 or 2 Mutalisks right there as well. More drones coming up for DongRaeGu, as well as more Mutalisks. He's making sure to balance his production so that he increases his income, but also so that he doesn't fall too behind economically, as if he doesn't make any drones, obviously he's not going to be able to support an economy if he stayed at 17 drones the entire time. Looks like that poor scouting Marine was taken out by some Mutalisks. These Marines are going to be able to take the tower, not able to do anything though until before the Mutalisks are able to take them out. All they're able to do is just sit on the tower and get increased vision, which is good for Thorzain on his part, but, you know, too bad for the Marine. Bad pathing is going to destroy that medevac, as it was part of the main army. It looks like Thorzain has decided that it is time to end this charade of a game. He is, oh no, he's not pulling his SCVs. He is actually just moving a command center and taking a faster third than the Zerg, is worth noting. Looks like a couple of Zerglings on the ground are going to scare just a little bit. Abandoning nest coming from, ooh, able to get that last Mutalisk? Yes, able to get that last Mutalisk. Nice job on Thorzain's part. And he does have a large group of Marines right here, although he probably doesn't want to play around too much. He is slowly pushing across the middle right here. We saw in the previous game, as I was saying, that he doesn't necessarily like Banelings. I think he likes to avoid them if he can, because more Banelings means less Mutalisks, and that's no fun for DongRaeGu. Those Marines are going to chase around those Mutalisks just a little bit. Probably Thorzain could be a little more aggressive with this push right now, as he does want to make sure he can get into position against these Mutalisks. Oh, wow. Losing 1 Mutalisk there and severely damaging another Mutalisk as well. He was already partially damaged. And another Mutalisk goes down, so DongRaeGu is actually bleeding Mutalisks just a little bit right now. He's building more, but he's losing them almost as fast as he can build them. And as I was saying earlier, his economy is so bad that he actually cannot afford to replace these Mutalisks. Now, if he keeps that tank alive, which looks like he's not actually able to do, he will actually be able to spot the mineral line with the siege tanks and able to deal a lot of damage to to DongRaeGu's economy. DongRaeGu is finishing his 3rd expansion right now, though. Looks like those Mutalisks are going to engage to take out small groups of Marines. DongRaeGu is actually being very good. I've criticized him a couple of times, but he's being very good with his Mutalisk control, able to engage in select moments when it is advantageous to him. Planetary Fortress, though, and 3 turrets is going to stop that. You can also see the emergency attack lab going down to be able to limit the amount of exposure of the Planetary Fortress to the Zerglings as well. Very nice job on his part. Also lets him get siege tanks out of it, which he will be doing pretty soon as well, I'm sure. DongRaeGu actually could take out the siege tank right there. Not sure if he sees it. Yes, he does. Looks like he will be able to snipe that pretty easily right there, as the Marines were not covering that. He's probably going to need a Thor actually to be able to deal that. He does have a armor right now, so he could get a Thor if he chooses to. Not sure if he's quite going to be able to do that. Oh wow, a couple of extra Mutalisks being taken out there. Some poor control there from DongRaeGu. It looks like Thorzain is going to move his forces across. Part of the reason for the huge spread here is to make sure that he doesn't get, I think he knows that he's pretty far ahead, and he just wants to make sure he doesn't get blown out in any sort of big engagement from DongRaeGu. However, he is getting chipped away at bit by bit, so it is possible that DongRaeGu will be able to manage a comeback. I have seen DongRaeGu manage comebacks similar to this. I've even seen, you know, some Zerg players like July Zerg. I've seen July Zerg come back after doing a 6 pool, so, you know, anything's possible in these games. Looks like the auto rally for the tank was poor, as it did in fact get taken out. That Marine will die as well. Did not quite get that Mutalisk kill, as there was a Mutalisk at like 13 health, so only taking a couple of Marine shots will in fact take him out. A couple of more Marines are nipping out their heels there and able to take out the Vespene geyser right there. That's severely going to hurt DongRaeGu's production. On top of that, DongRaeGu is, oh no, he was supply blocked, but he did finish a couple of Overlords, which are going to help with that. Looks like, oh wow, his control is so nice. Able to just like group up all of his Mutalisks, move in, one-shot the tank, and then move on out. Very nice job. That you can see why he likes the weapons upgrades, because control of Mutalisks is so good. You can see he has 22 Mutalisks right now, and he's just keeping the Marines just so well spread. However, these Marines will be 2-2, and these Mutalisks will only be 1-0, which means the Marines will do very well against these Mutalisks in the future. There are a bunch of Banelings coming out. I do believe they have, yes, they do have Baneling speed, and so we probably will see an engagement at some point. However, the spread of Thorzain is extremely good. As long as he micros his Marines properly during that engagement, he should be just fine. line, and it shows why his caution is in fact going to be able to pay off. He's going to put a bunch more Marines on top here, able to snipe some more drones most likely, as well as being able to take out the gases again. But it looks like the ground forces are going to move in and probably take those forces out unless they pick them up. Looks like he only picks up 4 of the Marines, but able to save their lives. Every life is sacred. Every life is precious. But you can see how many resources Thorzain actually has right now. He's at 1,400 resources. You probably could do with a couple more barracks right now to be able to make sure that he's actually producing enough Marines to be able to keep up production and keep himself, at least near max. He's not quite, he's like 30 away from max, and he's tied with supply on DongRaeGu, even though he has considerably more resources. Though DongRaeGu actually has a lot of gas as well. So actually DongRaeGu has caught up on the supply count. So, it's almost even out. He's almost caught up, and, each siege tank he takes out in this manner is only catching up further in terms of supply. Looks like the Zerglings were trying to be effective here in taking the tower, not quite able to do that. The turret here is not going to be too helpful in preventing DongRaeGu from being able to snipe that siege tank. He's just doing an excellent job. Wow, I've never seen someone picked apart quite so thoroughly. You could see exactly why he's such an amazing Terran sniper. His control is, he's made a couple of mistakes obviously, as you always do, but his control is just primarily just amazing, and he's lost very few unnecessary mutilates there. And as we can see from the swooping around. And actually Thorzain is not quite being aggressive enough here. He's not dealing enough economic damage with this push as a result of having to deal with these mutilates constantly. And we see the Zerglings are actually going to engage at the same time as well. He will lose all of his Marines, and hopefully the medevacs actually will be able to escape. But this command center will be taken out as it's morphing into a planetary fortress. He should be canceling. I think that auto-cancels if the command center is taken out. And I don't think there are any backup forces over here, so a couple of these add-ons could in fact be going down. That turret did get a couple of kills actually before it went down. A couple of Marines are going to move forward though, and maybe, no, they will not actually scare away these mutants. The mutants will turn into engage them. Looks like the main attack is coming though. Thorzain able to keep his Marines spread and the siege tanks as well. Means that attack was not very successful. DongRaeGu did pull back the majority of his forces. However, look at how many forces he's killed. He is now no longer mining from this base. I believe he got most of his forces out. However, if we take a look, we see that 23 workers have been killed, so he did kill a couple of extra workers as well. This is becoming very difficult to be able to watch and control both sides. Watch both sides on my part and control both sides on DongRaeGu and Thorzain's part. I'm sure it's much more difficult for them, obviously, as they have to make sure they don't lose any huge engagements here. And there are banelings, and so you can lose Marines very rapidly to these banelings. So Thorzain doing a nice job, though, shutting down mining at this base is exactly what he needed to do to be able to accomplish, to be able to maintain his lead against DongRaeGu's. You can see DongRaeGu's resources are fairly low right now. I believe DongRaeGu is ahead on workers, but not by enough, especially against a Terran. Thorzain actually probably wants to increase his SCV numbers just by a little bit more, as he is on 3 bases, so 50 Marines isn't quite enough for saturation on all those bases. Looks like the remaining of those banelings were able to take out the rest of the Marines there, though. DongRaeGu is going to move his mutalisks up, though. He is going to take a little bit of damage from those Marines on the bottom. He's keeping them very close up against this cliff to make sure he doesn't take any additional damage from the Marines on the bottom. Very nice control again. Able to snipe that last medevac as well, though. And able to take out all those Marines right there. A couple of Marines more, or another group of Marines are moving up, and these siege tanks are moving up as well. So you can see Thorzain is slow pushing his way to victory. But looks like this engagement is coming in. This is a lot of forces from DongRaeGu as well as a lot of mutalisks. It looks like, oh, he actually decides just to send the Lings in and moves the banelings back. I'm not sure. The Lings probably meant to go back as well, but the control was not perfect right there, so they did not able to go in. DongRaeGu is now down by 20 supply, so Thorzain has maintained the lead, or at least re-established the lead at this point in time as well. You can see that this expansion is up and running as well. This factory probably could use a tech lab at this point in time. Looks like the banelings are going to be rolling in, though. Good spread from Thorzain, taking very little damage from all of those, and looks like the siege tanks were able to eliminate the vast majority of them. And this mutalisks count is getting lower and lower and lower. And you see that DongRaeGu actually just had to GG out of the game, as he did a very good job. Like, he got behind very much early, as he lost just so unbelievable amount of workers. But slowly but surely, he was able to use his mutalisks, pick off a number of siege tanks, but in the end, it just wasn't quite enough. And Thorzain was able to slowly but surely use his slow push to deal enough economic damage to DongRaeGu to be able to take the game. And very good job on his part. Defeating DongRaeGu is no easy task, and we've shown, actually, that's basically the same strategy from Thorzain in 2 different games, and we've shown it successful one time and not successful the other time. Let's see exactly what they're going for in the next game. This is PGL Milncraft signing off. Thanks for watching.